Okay, so this is a video that's quite specific. It's related to the sport of boxing. And I've noticed my boxing videos, apart from the one I made on white collar boxing, don't tend to get a lot of traction. So I can only assume that a lot of my subscribers aren't into the sport, and that's fine. But hopefully, this will get a bit of attention because I think it's an important subject within the sport of boxing. I want to talk about Floyd Mayweather Jr., the American welterweight boxer, and in my view, one of the greatest boxers ever. Now, before I get into this, just a disclaimer: I don't really consider myself a Floyd Mayweather fan, and I think within the sport of boxing, and there's maybe a few other sports that have this. There's a there's this tendency that if people talk about a particular fighter, it's assumed they're either a fan or not a fan. But I think it's possible to talk about a fighter in an objective way without necessarily being a fan. So there's things about Floyd Mayweather I do not like. I do find there's certain personality things. I find him a bit arrogant at times. I don't like the materialistic side of his image. I think he's sort of promoted that. I'm not, it's not what I would do if I had his sort of wealth. Put it that way. Um, it's not entirely true that he hasn't done anything for charity. He has. During the devastating wildfires in Hawaii last year, he personally paid for families to be relocated. So it's not quite the case that he's all villain. I mean, during the Pacquiao fight, it was cast as good versus bad, and those sort of black and white terms, which I think is misguided. But suffice to say, I don't care much for his personality in other areas. I remember seeing a documentary that showed him in the gym, sort of not exactly hazing would be a strong word, but he was not being very respectful to some so-called journeyman fighters, young up-and-coming fighters. Um, I also, he has a history of domestic violence. Now that's something I cannot respect, and I cannot condone. It is what it is. With his girlfriend Josie Harris, or his partner, I should say, at that time, he did say it was both ways, but it never. That's never good PR for a professional boxer. But let's look at the facts. Floyd Mayweather has a perfect record, 50-0, 49-0 if you disregard the Conor McGregor fight, if you consider that McGregor isn't, a boxer. That's an exceptional record. Now, in of itself, it's not the undefeated thing. There's several other undefeated fighters. But for me, the greatness of Floyd Mayweather's record lies in the fact that not only was he undefeated, like I say, that in itself isn't necessarily a sign of greatness. It's a fact that he beats so many great fighters. I mean, Miguel Cotto, Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya. The list goes on. Of all of his fights, of course, the most controversial is with the great Manny Pacquiao. I'm a Pacquiao fan. I have to say, though, I get frustrated with the attitude of some other Pacquiao fans. I think some of it's nationalistic. They're Filipinos. They do resent that this American fighter beat their idol. Now, he beat Pacquiao, and any objective fan will see that. It's not the result I wanted, but it's what happened. But what I want to address in this video is the irrational animosity toward Floyd Mayweather. And the thing is, it's not about the things that I mentioned. It's not about his arrogance or the fact that he has, an unsavory record outside the ring with legal troubles. He's certainly not the only boxer to have that problem. Um, it's not even about, how what he does with his wealth in terms of the flaunting it. It's just this irrational. Um, at times, it looks like hatred. It looks like just this hysterical obsession with the man. Now, if you're still sore about the results of a boxing match 9 years ago, you need to look at what's going on in the world. You need to look at actual problems in this world, wars, human rights abuses, etc. Not liking the result of a sporting contest 9 years ago really shouldn't be something that people lose sleep over. And I get it. It was the most expensive fight ever. Um, it wasn't the result people wanted. And I'm not going to be naive and say there's no corruption in boxing, but I've looked at that a few times and I think Mayweather won. Um, I think he landed more shots. I think he just, on the night, was the better fighter. That's not taking anything away from Pacquiao. He's a great, great fighter, but, you know, the focus seems to be Mayweather's a runner. Now, this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. You look at any boxing forum where this comes up, it's infantile. You'll see a picture of Floyd Mayweather as a chicken. You'll see him sort of like world's greatest runner and this sort of thing. And sometimes there are racial angles to it. Not always, but sometimes. But it's just this hysterical obsession with running. I really have a big problem with that because defensive fighting is not running. And the implication there that he's a runner, that he's therefore scared, my question to those people who regurgitate that line is why would he be in the sport of boxing in the first place? Boxing's a tough physical sport. So if he was scared of getting hit, why would he be in that sport? Every professional boxer, every boxer, amateur boxers as well, know that there's a very strong chance, no matter how good their defense is, they will be hit at some point. Um, so it defies logic that someone who's scared of getting hit would join the sport of boxing. Um, Now Mayweather's record from his Olympic success onwards, he's faced some outstanding fighters. Guys, some of them are power punchers. So again, why would he agree to those fights if he was scared? It doesn't make sense. So those lazy idiots who call him a runner, they're ignoring that fact. If Mayweather was scared of those guys, why would he face them in the first place? It just doesn't make sense. And what they're focusing on is you can find some still shots where he's kind of at an angle that looks like he's backing off or something, some nonsense like that. It really annoys me because these people are demonstrating an ignorance of the sport. It's hit and don't get hit. It's not have a brawl where you're just beating each other's faces in. Um, the fact of the matter is, many great fighters have ended up, clearly having taken too many hits to the head. And I'm not going to name names, but there are fighters out there that fought on too long and they just looked like they took too many hits to the head. Say what you want about Floyd Mayweather, but he has done something whereby he has fought. He's got a certain record, and he still speaks coherently. He doesn't talk like he's punch drunk. Now there has to be something said for that. For protecting his health, not fighting on too long. He has made more money than any boxer ever. I mean, whatever people think of that, that sets him apart. Um, I have no problem putting Floyd Mayweather Jr. as one of the greatest boxers of all time. Possibly not the number one spot, but I honestly would have him up there with Sugar Ray Robinson, Manny Pacquiao, Henry Armstrong, Willie Pep, and a couple of others that would be pound for pound greats, even beyond their own division. Um, I get that, I'm not going to convert any of these people. If they want to be infantile, if they want to churn out this he's a runner nonsense, they can. But boxing is not about just letting yourself get hit. It's, hit and don't get hit. Protect yourself at all times. It's not a street fight. And what is the honour in letting yourself get hit? It's just to prove something. I mean, that's ridiculous. Um, I think people have animosity to Floyd because he is such a good defensive fighter. I mean, and the sort of criticism they level at him, Sugar Ray Leonard done the same thing. So I don't understand why there is such animosity towards Floyd. Leonard got a little bit of it in the 80s, but not comparable. I've never seen a fighter so irrationally, facing so much animosity. Tyson Fury's getting a bit now because of his antics, because he runs his mouth and then he backs out fights. But I think it's unfair. I mean, this is not to say I'm a big fan of Floyd. It's not to say that he can't be criticised. But at least the criticism should be objective, and at least it shouldn't be this nonsense, brainless argument about running. Um, it just defies comprehension because if he was scared, he would not be in a boxing ring in the first place. That's the bottom line. He'd be in a more genteel sport. Um, So I think it's a very lazy argument, and I do think it's mostly from Pacquiao fans. It has to be said. Um, Maybe some from Marquez fans, possibly, but I just think like seriously, guys, 2015, time to move on. Manny Pacquiao himself has moved on. You don't see Manny Pacquiao posting these infantile memes. And I came across one guy, it was literally his entire profile was posts about Floyd Mayweather and how much he hates Floyd Mayweather. Now, I don't understand hating a sportsman that much, but even a politician, there's public figures I strongly dislike, but I'm not going to pollute my profile feed with stuff about them. Um, Objective fans will see Floyd Mayweather as a great, great fighter. They may disagree with me that he's one of the greatest of all time, but I would hope they would at least be open minded enough to recognize he has achieved significant things. I mean, anyone that says Mayweather is outside, say, the top 20 boxers of all time is being, in my view, very short sighted. Very, very short sighted. What more does a fighter have to do than to win fights and over great fighters? I mean, literally, what more can you ask of a fighter? Um, if it's about not running, okay, some people find that style to be boring. It's not the most exciting style, fair enough. People might argue that the aggressive sort of fighting forward style of a Manny Pacquiao or a Roberto Duran is much more exciting to watch, and I think that's probably true. But Floyd Mayweather is nevertheless a great fighter. He does what he has to do. And I hope he doesn't go back to the ring for, you know, I hope he does stick to it, because too many great fighters have ended up like, with slurred speech, and you can tell they've taken too many hits to the head. That's not the case with Floyd Mayweather Jr. Um, I just, it's just irritating. It's something about the sport of boxing that annoys me when people, many of them who have not been in the ring, I might add, are just throwing out such ridicule and vilification of a sportsman. I mean, they can criticize Floyd. They could say they don't like the style. They could say they think he's overrated. Although I wouldn't agree with that. But to call him a runner, that says more to me about the people posting that rubbish than about Floyd Mayweather, who's rich, famous, and successful. And what are they doing? They're posting their childish little memes. It's really quite pathetic. So if you're a boxing fan, let me know your thoughts on this. I'm not saying that people have to agree with me, that hit and don't get hit is an exciting form of fighting, or well, that's not my position. But I'm not. This is not about like you need to like Floyd Mayweather or even recognize him in the top pound for pound fighters. But at least, I hope people see what I'm driving at with this thing about running being infantile. It's just an ignorant argument because it says to me that people who are talking about that do not understand the rules of the sport of boxing. It's hit and don't get hit. It's not stand there and let your head getting beaten in to show that you're an aggressive style of fighter. That's nonsense. Mayweather is a magician in the ring. He is exceptional. He can see a fighter's move before it happens. I mean, people can say what they want, but Floyd Mayweather Jr. is an exceptional, exceptional fighter, and I would have him in the top probably five pound for pound fighters ever.